I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Hi, welcome Necromage to the interview. Hi.
Hello. It's good to be here, Larry.
Larry?
This is Larry King Live?
No, not Larry King Live. No, you.
What do you mean he's dead?
You should know. You're a Necromage.
I don't know things.
Well, I gotta imagine though. The last couple of shows he did, he looked pretty reanimated anyway.
I mean, to be fair, he was like the first time I saw Larry King, he looked dead to me. So
yeah, but he still managed to marry like 20-year-old wives. I don't know how that happened. Oh yeah, he was rich. Okay.
Yeah, money.
Yeah, that does help quite a bit. I don't know what that's like. Maybe when I reincarnated, I'll come back as a rich person next time. So thank you for coming on the show. If you could introduce yourself to everybody.
Of course, I'm the great and terrible Necromage. I am a horrible spirit that possesses people and slowly kills them. So I have to keep jumping from body to body as it withers and decays. And I'm currently trapped on the internet. But who knows how long that's going to last. So sleep awake.
Ah, great. That's one thing I need to worry about as I get even older than I am. Yep, good thing I got my antivirus up.
Oh, that'll stop me.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
That does work.
It's Bob's antivirus. I don't know how good it is. I mean, he paid me to take it, so I'm not really sure how great it is. But as long as I live to another interview, I'm perfectly fine. So, how did you get started on the interwebs?
On the interwebs or
yes?
Okay. That's a lot of umbrellas. Like on the interwebs or like streaming?
Streaming on the interwebs.
Yeah, streaming. Streaming really started during the pandemic. Technically, I had a Twitch channel before that, and I would stream. But I would stream. I was mostly on YouTube, and I was made of meat, and I would stream for Christmas because I hate Christmas. So I would spend Christmas morning streaming because I do not have a good relationship with my family to the point where at this point I don't have a relationship with my family.
Yes. And
so every Christmas it would basically be like, oh, all my friends are understandably like going to see their families at that time of year, right. And I've got nothing to do. So I'm just going to stream Christmas morning and just like people can throw me on in the background as like their Christmas background noise or whatever, and that's sort of a thing to do. And those initial streams were very, very tongue-in-cheek, oh, poor me, I don't have anything to do at Christmas other than like set myself on fire or whatever, that type of the Mo Sizlak joke, the running gag.
Yes.
So that was what I was using Twitch for the first few years, was just the once a year Christmas streams.
Yes.
But then during the pandemic, I'm in Canada, so for me the pandemic, like as an individual, the pandemic was like the most financially stable and like I've ever been in my entire life. Like I was just getting money from the government and not having to like kill myself working for less money than I was making.
Right.
So I was like, I have free time. I can actually like relax. I moved into my friends bought a house shortly before the pandemic. So I was going to move into their basement apartment because it's like a unit in there.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh great, I can get off of this like paying thousands of dollars to a landlord every month and live with my friends, but like still have my own space. So they did that like a couple of months before the pandemic happened and the housing crisis just exploded.
Yeah.
So that was unbelievably fortunate timing. I move in shortly before the pandemic happens. Pandemic happens, everything shuts down. So all of a sudden, like, I'm in a stable location. I'm financially secure, and I have nothing to do but time. And I'm like, I'm gonna like, I'm gonna try streaming just to like be more creative faster.
Yeah.
Because I had done YouTube for years, and I found that doing YouTube, I really don't enjoy editing. I
Mm.
like every other aspect of the video creation process, but the editing, I don't enjoy it. I don't like, even when I do like a cute, like interesting or funny edit, like it does not spark joy.
Ah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. And you get
So,
but that's the work part of it.
well, if yes, but also like there's definitely like people out there who are editors. Like
Mm.
you can tell when like a really good editor really adds a lot to a project. And yes, it is work, but like there's like a creative reward to it.
Hmm.
And I don't derive that sort of pleasure reward from it
Right.
the way that certain creatives do.
Mm.
Same with like like public any sort of public speaking, like streaming or radio. Like there are people who love doing it, and there are people where they would rather be in a room full of scorpions.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
it, yeah, like certain people are good at certain types of creative work, and find it rewarding to the point where it's not a slog.
Yeah.
And for me, video editing is a bit of a slog.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't do any real video editing other than, having pictures with the words, and how I
Yeah,
do it.
the very simple, like it's just
Yeah.
one frame the whole time, and
Right.
it's an audio. It's like a podcast
Yeah.
that's
It is.
on a video
Yeah. It's
format.
it's basically it. And uh, I'm I'm old enough to where we had to edit our audio on reel-to-reel tape. And
Really?
yeah, and I got to tell you, kids, that was no fun. If you,
No, for sure not.
I mean, you literally had to cut the tape and
Mm,
in the right spots, and then tape it back together with a certain type of tape. And if you messed it up
yeah.
and you didn't back up your copy, you were gonna get whatever you got.
Mm.
You'll break right in the middle
I
of a word or something like that.
I knew that was a technique that was done.
Hmm.
Before coming on here, I listened to a few of your interviews just to like
Mm.
figure out what I was in for, and I happened to catch one where you mentioned like you got into radio in 1984, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that type of editing was being done still at that point.
Oh, we didn't have the digital stuff until the 90s. Um,
Yeah, that's I don't know why I like I don't know what it would be, but something in like my brain sort of just connected like, oh, they cut the thing manually, and then there was something else, and then it was digital. But
yeah,
like there probably really wasn't. No.
no, it was a very quick transition.
Mm.
And it made it so much easier, obviously. I mean, back then, if we were to do a 30-second commercial and distribute it to, say, 7 different stations, we would have a master reel with the original commercial on it. And then we'd have to go find 7 other short reels of tape, dub it
Oh
onto
no.
that every time, losing a generation every time, then putting it in an envelope and sending it by mail, like U.S. Postal Service, and hope that that didn't go through a magnet on the way to the other radio station. And
Oh
hope,
yeah, because that would destroy it.
and
Yeah.
otherwise, hopefully they'd get it in time. Now, when I was out of it, 6 years ago, we could put one together, attach it to an email, send it, and they could play it immediately off the email.
Mm.
Big difference. Plus, editing is so much more fun now than it was. You get to
Oh
the
yeah, like editing in a software program is so much better than like
oh
assembling a physical strip of very fragile material.
yeah, and you talk about the video stuff. When I was in getting my ill-advised radio degree way back in the 80s, um, the we did video editing, and that was with the 1.5-inch tape. That was a videotape at the time, and that took forever. That took forever. And again, sometimes that was cutting and splicing, and that's what they mean by leaving something on the editing room floor. You literally,
the cutting room floor. They'd literally cut. It's the cutting room.
yeah, literally, it's cut out of the tape on the floor. That was no fun either. And then video tried to kill the radio star, and here I am. It didn't kill me; it just wounded me severely. It winged me.
I have used that song so often. Like that song, I use that song whenever I would do like one of my initial like karaoke performances was to that song. I think that song was the first song I played when I made a Christmas special.
Yep.
I use that as like my first song a lot of the time, just because I love the trivia of this was the first song, like this was the first music video they played on MTV.
Yep. Yep.
And like, it's just like a little like I like sneaking little Easter eggs in for people who know that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Into everything I do.
Yeah, it's nice for us old folks who remember when it came out, and had the original 45 record of it, which nobody knows any idea what I'm talking about now with that.
I mean, records and vinyl are sort of coming back now.
Yeah, well, there's just a timbre to it that you can't get from digital.
Yeah, there's a timbre. There's also just like the quality of them. Like when I grew up, like I had like access to all the tapes that like my parents had and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like I'm really familiar with that as a medium, and like going from vinyl to that, yes, there were a ton of like portability. Like it's convenient in a lot of ways, but the sound quality between like a good record and tapes is a massive drop off. And then it seems like every form of media is just trying to like get the quality back up, like CDs, DVD quality, MP3s, etc.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get the quality back up, but like the quality of a good vinyl record is just there.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the medium itself masks things like edits. Where now, me being an old guy, I remember when the first CDs came out, and they were using not digital masters, but analog masters. They were off the old original edited audio tapes. So when people got a hold of something like Sgt. Pepper's or the White Album for the Beatles, they heard every edit. You'd hear the clicks and pops.
In crystal clear CD quality.
And people were like, what is this stuff? And well, that's what they did. And the frequency response is so massive, you hear absolutely everything on it. So they had to figure out ways to dumb it down a little bit so you could still get the good quality out of it. But the original ones, you'll hear those clicks and pops. They used to have if you ever go to a flea market and find a very old CD, there'll be 3 letters on it, and it'll be like AAD, which means it was originally recorded in analog, mastered in analog, and then dubbed to digital.
Yeah, I was pretty young when CDs first came out, so like but I definitely remember like something about like the very first CDs, like people did not like how they sounded even though the quality was higher, which I'm sure is what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like it's the quality is fine, but people don't know the medium yet, so they're releasing like very flawed artwork.
Yes, exactly. It's got all of the scars and things that the makeup tried to not show. Now you're seeing every wrinkle on its face. People are like, no, I don't really want that. But I mean, obviously, it's gotten a lot better since then. But that's the way with a lot of technology, and I think even with audio technology now, I'm seeing folks who are going through all sorts of backflips with their audio equipment when they don't really need to so much. When you're doing a talk format, you don't need a the best microphone in the world for that, unless you're really low voice or something like that.
Yeah, or like it with like I can see it if there's like ASMR or something like
Oh
that.
yeah. You always have
But
different
like
with that, but
yeah, just a talk, just a podcast.
yeah,
You don't need to be on the bleeding edge of microphone technology
no,
because the
no.
content is what people are there for,
Oh yeah,
not necessarily the sound.
and the frequency response is usually a good range for that. And but if you're
Mm.
doing like you said, you're doing a karaoke, uh, you'll probably want a better microphone because otherwise it'll sound like you're singing into a tin can.
Yeah.
Uh, and that one of the reasons why I never sing is because that I don't want to damage the microphones or anybody's hearing or my own hearing at that point. Um, but it's very sometimes you just go back to the basics sound buffering in the room that you do it in. Why people
Mm.
do cover songs in their closet with a blanket over their head because you get better frequency response.
Yeah, I definitely I can't remember what the video was, but I do remember I recorded a voiceover for one of my videos where my microphone was a crappy MP3 player,
Mhm.
and I recorded it in a closet, just because like where I was staying, like my room was big and relatively empty, so it
Oh,
was just a disaster for echoes. And my only
hello.
mics were at that time were a headset and the little MP3 player. So I was like, well, I'm going in the closet and bringing blankets to just mess up the shape
Yeah,
of the echoes. And yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's where you got the phrase. It sounds like you're in a barn.
yeah,
Because that's what you do. We sound like you're in a barn when that happens. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring old school back as much as possible. All of the pain of old school is coming back with Eric Loy interviews. I'll put that on the
fantastic.
we'll put that on the T-shirt when we ever get one. Um, so you got started in VTubing when?
Uh, Again, shortly after the pandemic,
Yeah.
basically, yes. So I was on YouTube and I was made of meat,
Hmm.
had a webcam,
Right.
um, and I found that like even though I was pre-recorded, there'd be a lot of times where I'd be like, "All right, I want to play some video games. I'll set everything up and record it." And I'll be like, "I don't really want to like deal with the lighting
Hmm.
and make myself like I don't want to be on for the camera."
Yeah.
So there'd be times where I would be like, "I want to play video games, I want to record it, but I don't want to do the camera thing."
Right.
So eventually I was like, I'll just record the videos without the face cam. Like nobody's necessarily clamoring for my reactions. I don't play like jump scare games.
Right.
So I went without the camera for that. And then during the pandemic, very relatively quickly, the two things happened where one, I suddenly had all this time where I was like, I'm going to try streaming just to see what happens.
Hmm.
And two, I learned that VTubing existed from the Ecom Bokum meme with Corone. That was
Yeah.
like the one video of Iron Mouse being like with the I can't remember what it was. She got the funding, the subathon or whatever it
Yeah.
was, where she met her goal like in 10 minutes or whatever,
Right.
and was
Just overwhelmed. Yeah.
yeah, just absolutely over. I saw that video,
Yeah.
um, and it didn't really register. I was like, who is this like cartoon woman? Well, that's very nice. Like
Yeah.
that girl gets her bit. I had no context at all for any of it. It was just a random YouTube recommendation.
Right.
And then like during the pandemic, the Ecom Bokum thing and a bunch of other Corone videos just kept getting recommended to me, and I was like, what is this? So I like looked into it and I was like, oh, that's neat. And then I was like, I wonder if I can do this myself.
Mm.
So actually, I went in. I have a VTuber model, quote unquote.
Right.
I don't have any of it rigged,
Right.
but I years ago, before I ever made a PNG tube avatar or anything, I made a model of a character who is a vampire,
Right.
and he was meant to be like I would rig him up and play as him, and sort of like adopt a persona, and he would be another host of Necromage TV.
There you go.
Because Necromage TV, in its inception, was always meant to be like a variety show of me and like my friends who wanted to help me do it, and I have different like programming day to day at different time slots or whatever.
Right.
And everyone who has ever wanted to like help me have a show on the network besides me has like fallen off of the interest, so it's just me. But
welcome to the new
so
age.
I have this model of my unborn vampire son just waiting, because I found like free Linux compatible software to make the model.
Yeah.
But I could not find any free compatible Linux software to rig the model or animate the model.
So it's your vampire is lying in state.
He's somewhere in the facility, and hopefully someday he will see I almost said the light of day.
No.
That's a terrible thing to wish.
No. After all that waiting, I don't think that would be a terrible thing to do to him.
Yeah.
Wait till the darkest night possible. Well, I mean, it sounds like you took to it pretty quick, though. I mean,
yeah. Well, it struck me as like an interesting way to express myself, and like have something visual for people to connect to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't like not having anything on the screen, just from the visual, like watching the stream perspective.
Right.
I wanted to have something of me for the audience to attach themselves to.
Okay. Yeah.
So finding out that, this thing's an option. So I found out about VTubing. I was like, that's really cool, because I can make my avatar be whatever I want, and then people can like associate me with that visual.
Right.
And then I was like, none of this is actually working. Boo. Oh well. And then again, like about a month or two after that was when I was like, PNG tubing is a thing, and it's way easier to actually like do yourself.
Right.
And then I found like the software, and this all works. So now I need to like design a much simpler, I had to design a much simpler character, because I knew that I couldn't be as expressive with the few frames that I have in the software I can use.
Right.
Which is Video Tuber Plus. So that was where I sort of came up with the idea. I have this mask, and the mask was always the mask was originally a physical thing.
Right.
So I was working in a pizza kitchen one summer, and one of the guys just cut a bunch of masks into paper plates, and just goofing around.
Right.
And I drew the eyes and the mouth onto a paper plate, and then held it up to my face, and it was apparently I obviously didn't see it, because it was my face, but it was apparently everyone who saw me hold it up to my face was very disturbed by just my mouth behind the big grinning mask mouth, and my eyes in the angry mask eyes. So I used it in a couple of my videos, and then I was like, I'm just gonna make that mask into like an actual avatar.
Yeah.
So I drew my original avatar, which was basically the mask but on mechanical spider legs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the original lore of it, which I never really found an avenue to explain like the lore behind my character, my persona.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, that mask on spider legs is a drone that I've put like I use my consciousness to control the drone.
Well, okay.
And it's meant to leap onto people, face hugger them, and then either explode or put me into them.
Oh,
and then that's how I get a new body.
There you go. It's a portable body to body device.
Exactly.
Mm.
It's basically it puts the mask on them, and then I go from the mask is what holds the ghost. Um, but now, having evolved the concept and also just as a person, I reached a point where I I went through a bad breakup,
Hmm.
and seeing the mask as my avatar, I was just like, I want to destroy that smile.
Oh,
So I made an avatar where I didn't have the bottom part of the mask anymore,
okay.
and it just had a frown, like a actual mouth frown, in like, and it became much more of an actual mask rather than a face.
Okay.
Um, and I went with that for a while, and then I broke the mask in half, so that I could have an actual like eye and just have a more expressive face behind it.
Hmm.
And then I did that for a while, and it was fun. That's when I really got into doing the sprite art, um, and sort of expressing myself and reconnecting with that because years and years and years ago, as a kid, I did sprite comics.
Oh,
I would just
okay.
like, yeah, straight up like Bob and George 8-bit theater inspired.
Oh,
I would just
neat.
take like Final Fantasy V sprites because I thought they looked the best and like recolor them and made little sprite comics. I don't know if any of them exist in any capacity at all anymore.
Yeah, sure will.
Um,
I'm sure someone out there will find them.
well, they were never online. I
Oh,
never put them anywhere.
oh.
So like I said, I don't know. They might be truly lost media.
Mm.
I know I have some sprite sheets that I made of like my IRC chat room friends kicking around in like an email on my Gmail account. So not all of my art is lost, but I think every comic is.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, I do remember that was actually that those comics that I made were actually the first instance of Necromage TV
okay.
because the comic strip, the first comic strip I made was it was like a 4-panel comic, and the first panel was nothing but static, and
Okay.
then the second panel was like a close up of the Necromage character that I made out of I believe it was Bart's as a white mage that I recolored to be a necromancer.
Okay.
Um, he was sort of like setting up the television broadcast. Because I've always loved the sort of like meta meta narrative example of like a TV show about a TV show.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are when done right, those are really good.
Hmm. Like I grew up one of the shows that I grew up watching Comedy Network
Mm,
in the summer,
mm,
and it would show like uh SCTV
mm.
and like WKRP in
Yeah,
Cincinnati,
yeah.
and like shows that were obviously before my time, like they were reruns, but like I loved just like the things that they could do with shows about making shows.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, like the
And
Mary
I
Tyler Moore
to this
show.
day I love. Oh, sorry,
The Mary Tyler Moore show was that way too.
I've never seen, but I will have to check
Yeah,
it out if that's the case.
yeah. TV newsroom. And Ted Baxter. Um, Ted Knight as Ted Baxter is an iconic character. You have to. It's just ridiculously
Mm,
funny. Anyway, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
no worries. Yeah, I do kind of feel like I'm monopolizing, but
No, no,
this is
no
my
worries. No worries.
interview, so
Yeah,
deal with it.
yeah.
Deal with it, Larry.
I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with it. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Uh,
Hello.
it took me. I really couldn't decide between Larry King and Howard Stern for that bit.
Well, one a lot of my first part of radio was doing the board work for Larry King show,
Oh,
for a
amazing.
local station. So I heard a lot of Larry. Believe me.
Um, but yeah, what was I on about?
On about shows within shows, how much you enjoy it.
Yes, yeah, my one of my favorite form, like I don't even know if form of media is the right terminology. My favorite media are when they do something within the medium that can only work in that medium. I feel like that's a form of artistic mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my favorite book is The House of Leaves
Okay.
for that reason. Because that book scares you in ways and works in ways that can only work as a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And similarly, there's lots of video games where, like, they do things like close your desktop or like mess with your files, like things that you can only experience by experiencing them
Right.
in the medium that they are in. A lot of plays are very similar, where it's like they use the fact that like they can just go out into the audience thing, or like I don't know if this is like realistic. This is one of those things where it's like I heard it as a kid and I've never really checked into it. But like Japanese theater, one of the things with like stagehands where they all wear black and everyone knows that like, oh, that person's not a person.
Right.
They're just like moving a piece of the set
Right.
during like a scene.
Yeah.
Just one of them just draws a blade and kills a person, and oh, that was a ninja.
Yeah.
Like that type of moment, that type of thing is phenomenal to me, and it to me that's like the best way to use any medium is to play with the realities of that medium.
Well, you're breaking the fourth wall for a lot of that, and that's
you're breaking it, but in a way where it shows that you understand exactly the shape of and color of that wall that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing it, but not just to do it. You're doing it because for a reason and to advance everything going on. I can see that really, really well. I agree with you on a lot of that. I enjoy watching a lot of things along those lines, and a lot of it's because I was in radio for so long that I can, like WKRP, if I watch it, I go, yep, that definitely happens. Yes, that's what happens when the stream dies and you're and you're screaming into the microphone. That's exactly what happens. So yeah, I could definitely see that. So is that what your TV is about? I mean, are you doing that in your streams, kind of doing that fourth wall separation?
That's where a lot of the aesthetics of my stream come from.
Mm-hmm.
Is like I want it to be. I want it to basically look and evoke the idea of like a haunted television broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I use a lot of like static, and I use a lot of like my I have that interstitial scene that just goes to beeping, shaking color bars.
Right.
And part of that is basically I almost want there to be. I don't want it to look ugly. I want my stream to like be pleasant to look at and for everyone watching to like enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But I want there to be this sort of like tension, a sense of unease at like the aesthetics of it.
Yeah. It's just got an unsettling feeling to it. I mean, it looks good, but it's just like this is not your normal thing.
Yeah, and it's very hard to strike that balance. Yeah. Like, so I've spent a lot of time, like probably more than anything else on my stream. Like my avatars don't take me that long to make,
right,
compared to my layouts. Like getting my layouts to a point where I feel like I'm hitting that balance. I think this is the first one where I'm like really happy with it.
Good. Yeah. Then you can kind of set that aside and move on to other things. Although I get this idea that you're never really satisfied with something like that.
No, for sure. Like it's sort of for me, it's very much I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave it to where it is until I feel that I have advanced enough to really iterate something. Yeah. Like my old setup, my old layout, I fondly called the Abyss because it was a pixel art like wall of flesh with screens in it.
Yeah.
And it was just darkness, and like the screens covered most things so that you couldn't really tell that behind it was necessarily like a specific sprite. It was just like, why is there like flesh peeking out from behind these
Yes.
MS screens?
Yes.
And I do like that aesthetic, but I don't feel that I pulled it off well enough. And I would like to go back to that, given the appropriate advancement of my character and my stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I would be able to do that type of thing. It might be like the first thing I commission, if I ever commission anything.
But no, I mean, you got such a artist mentality with this that you're not quite satisfied with it, even though other folks might think it's done. How hard would it be to actually commission it to somebody else when you're the one that's got the vision?
I mean, I'm a pretty good communicator. Like I have an artist's mind, but I do not describe myself as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I very much produced like all of the assets for my channel after many years of, because I know a lot of friends who are artists and like make amazing art. And so many of them have been like, oh, if you ever need like overlays or anything for your channel, just mention it and I'll do it. And I have never gotten any of them to actually do that. So I was just like, fine, I'll do it myself and it'll be bad and I'll get better. And that's literally how I feel that my avatars have progressed. Like one of my first avatars was like one of those online, it was like just a anime schoolboy that I just I took him into Color Paint, which is the Linux version of MS Paint.
Yeah.
And I just like erased his face and put the mask on him, and I was like, I'll be this guy for a while. And then in a few months, I'll make his skin gray. And then in a few months, I'll make his skin break out into lesions. And eventually that body's going to go away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how liches and necromancers are made, isn't it? A slow decay over time. As far as that goes. So when I tune into one of your streams, and we're going to have all the links in the description for this interview.
And you better click them.
Yes, click them all. What am I going to see if I tune into one of your? Say you're streaming tonight. What would I see?
Generally, I prefer older games to newer games, and I prefer indie games to AAA titles. That said, I'm very much a variety streamer. I've never wanted to like pigeonhole myself into one thing. Like I like Metroidvanias, I like Pokemon, I like monster collectors that aren't like necessarily Pokemon.
Right.
I like JRPGs to an extent. And I like fighting games a lot, but I don't play any well enough to really stream them anymore. One fight, there was a fighting game that I'm very good at. I was in the first season of Brawlhalla, I was in the top 500 in North America.
Oh, cool.
Which was before I streamed.
Yes. And now you can't put in like 75 hours a week at it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even that hard, though. I admittedly, like, I wasn't top 1. I was top 466, I think, was my peak.
Still, that's pretty damn good.
But yeah, I was very, very good. But like the way I got there was I would basically be like, I want to play some Brawlhalla, so I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get water, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to limit myself to playing, I think at most 4 matches, because I would play until I got 3 wins or 2 losses. Because if I got 3 wins in a row, or like 3 out of 4 games were a win, I'd be like, okay, just from like playing, I am like mentally sapped and I'm going to get worse.
Yeah.
And whereas if I got 2 losses, I'd be like, I'm starting to get frustrated. I'm going to play worse. Then I would like I'd either stop playing Brawlhalla or I'd switch to like non-ranked and just play like the casual modes or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I did not want to like go on a tear of losses and tank my rating.
Yeah. I can see that. I used to do like chess online back in the old
Yeah.
old internet days, and I had a okay ranking. It wasn't the best, but if I started playing badly, I was like, okay, let's just cut our losses here and come back when the mind's straightened up. And
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I got to get you back again because we barely got started, and we're already 40 minutes in.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so we got to get you back here very soon, and talk more with you because I still don't know the first thing about necromaging, and I'm old enough to where I should start to learn. Just for
It's important. You gotta learn it before you die, so you don't die.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I could still use it on like that one joint that doesn't work. I probably revive that right now and get it working properly. When you're a certain age, all your warranties expire.
Oh, I'm starting to feel that.
Yeah. Hey, all of the links for the Necromage is going to be up on the description for this video. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to talk with you, and I can see why people are tuning in and sticking with you. Absolutely wonderful. Great personality for this, and a great outlook. Folks, check out, see what Necromage has going on. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to be back.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.